Most of the time when owners come, they expect us to be the magician. I come in, I want my lights to be wow.
80% of my owners never think that lighting is a before thought.
If we are dealing with first-time homeowner, they are not as practical.
For youngster like a new BTO homeowner, they want nice only.
Lighting budget should be about 5 to 10%. A lot of people fail to understand it actually impacts 100% of the space. A lot of times when we actually work with owners, right? Wow, so expensive ah. They have this conception because they don't understand how important lighting is. Lighting is not a one-size-fits-all thing.
That's a scary reality. Renovation isn't just about tiles and moodboard. It's about the people and the decisions they made for each and every one of the project. Welcome to Season 2 of the SIXiDER Show. I'm Astley, aka The Designer. Joining us today, right, we have three very unique guests. On the very left, we have Shawn from V Lux. He's a lighting specialist, BD, but they've been doing lighting for a very long time. And then we have Nat from Project Focal, who's an interior designer, and Ginnie, who's also an interior designer from The Interior. Let's start with Shawn to do a quick introduction about himself.
Okay, hello, my name is Shawn. I'm the Business Development Director of V Lux. So basically my day-to-day is to come into the showroom and to connect with my colleagues and to find out what are the challenges they have. At the same time, we'll do give them some advice, or if the site has any issue, I'll be there to assist them. Of course, apart from that, product development, what products to bring in, what are the things that we should market outside. So this is basically my core job.
Hi, I'm Nat from Project Focal. So I'm the co-founder of Project Focal, of course, and I'm 10 years inside the industry. So I started out in a renovation firm, and then I also went and joined into construction sector, right? So managing glass, etc. But then it's not for me, and I went back into interior design. Then ever since then, I'm here already.
I'm Ginnie from The Interior Design. I'm an interior designer for 15 years of experience, and I'm a co-founder of The Interior. What I do day by day is like meeting new homeowner as well as running site to check our work quality. After that, there's some also internal management work lah.
Today, we have a very interesting topic. Like last week, so YJ came and then he's from Uncle Defects. So this time around, we have another specialist, which is Shawn from V Lux Lighting. And just now you mentioned it's basically all those things related to your day-to-day lah. Yeah. I'm more interested is actually about like your understanding of lighting. So today's topic is actually called lighting wars, right? Whether designers and lighting specialists, right, are working well together, and whether we are really delivering powerful value-added solutions to homeowners these days. Right. This is a very interesting topic because my time as an interior designer more than 20-30 years ago, right, was that we always think of lighting as to 省电. And then lighting, right, because maybe the understanding is usually we put the lights on the ceiling, put it in center, or you spread it out in an even distribution, right, then that will work. And lighting always exists on the ceiling. It's never like on the floor, never on the wall. There are no layering. So what happens is that as long as it's up there, it's bright. And as long as it's white, it's bright. Right? And so if you go and see a lot of these 20-year-old property, right, they all look like that. Ceiling got like 40, 50 spotlights and all that. Right? It's like stars in the sky.
Right.
Yeah. So today, right, the goal is to tell people whether this is still the right thing, is it still relevant, and given current technology, right, because it's low consumption, there are different color temperature, how can we then bring aesthetics beyond to just from the ceiling to other parts of the house as well?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is today's topic. Let's ask the first question. Let's start with Shawn first, since you're the specialist.
Sure.
From your experience, what's the most common mismatch between the homeowner's expectation and what is achievable when it comes to lighting? And what I mean by that is that they have an expectation, right?
Right.
Then, but in terms of technicality, scientific limitations, as well as cost control, how usually do you deal with customers who have a mismatch?
I think firstly, I don't call myself a specialist lah. I'm not a specialist, but I've been in the industry for 20 years. So I've seen a lot in terms of the evolution before LED to LED today. And the common trend that you actually mentioned, that in the past that you want light to have light and then the entire place to be bright, right? It's actually happening even today. But thankfully, of course, through technology and then through the internet, end users actually find that lighting, I can learn a bit more. It's not just pure lighting. In terms of lighting, in our experience, is that there's no right or wrong. Because end of the day, the very basic requirement of lighting is functionality. Means I turn on, I can see. That's the basic function. But from there, how do you want to improve? That's the more important part. I think for designers like them, they also understand that in design, it can be designed, but after that, it can be better. How can it be better? So from there, what we will do is to develop firstly the needs of the client in different spaces and also understand their daily life before we actually propose different methods of lighting to ensure that the space is actually designed or well lit or even to certain application suitable for clients. So lighting is not a one size fit all thing. It's more of understanding the lifestyle, and from there, how do we actually improve from what they have in mind? So your question was actually about the expectation. So I think the biggest issues that we usually face is that most of the time when owners come, they expect us to be the magicians. I come in, I want my lights to be wow, this and that. But actually, to do that, it's possible, but it has to be planned. And plan could be before even the masonry works is done during the renovation. Conversation should be done probably before the work has started. Probably the design has already firmed up, and then try to understand what kind of mood they want to set in their own house.
So what you're saying is that the mismatch is usually they think that lighting is an afterthought.
Yes,
But what you're saying is that lighting should be a before even execution exercise.
that's right.
You can then design the purpose. And purpose here, the first thing that you mentioned is function first.
Yes.
So Ginnie, right, maybe you can give us your designer's perspective, especially for homeowners. Do they really treat it as an afterthought for lighting? And then maybe whether you can elaborate on whether there are homeowners who don't really care about lighting from a functional perspective, but treat it like aesthetics, like RGB lighting. I think that's like the rage today, right? They think about mood lighting and all that as a focus. They don't care that, 我要照明而已.
Basically, most of the clients that I ever met, especially youngster lah, not very young lah, I think 30, 20.
First home, BTO
first
owner.
home.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, first home BTO owner. Yeah, they actually looking into more aesthetic rather than they want it bright, like all time. So for those who is actually in older generation, then they actually want really just one bright because they are reading newspaper or in the living or this ma. For those youngster like a new BTO homeowner, they actually just want really they want nice on it. They not really care about like whether bright enough or not. Also, usually when we propose in the design, we will use 3000K, 3005K, that kind of brightness, which is you cannot really read lah. Yeah. So it's like really like hotel feel. Yeah, that's what they want.
So Nat, we basically heard from the lighting guy as well as Ginnie, right? And I think what I can gather is that basically if we are dealing with a first-time homeowner, then they are not as practical. I would associate there are 3 stages to homeowners in Singapore. First-time homeowner, upgrader.
Correct.
These are people who have kids already, and then maybe they are looking at a bigger house.
Correct.
And then they have silver gen. These 3 stages, right, they will need renovation.
Correct.
And then they will come and look for people like you guys. Lighting, right, for these 3, from what I understand from Ginnie, is that it will be different. So what are your thoughts on that?
For most of my clientele, it's more of those upgrader. If not, it's those like I would say it's auntie. Not say auntie. They are categorized under silver gen. Okay, so under auntie saso. Auntie saso. Okay, let's just talk about the silver gen first Okay, so silver gen, they are not really tech savvy, right? So when they come to us, okay, so what they expect is actually they just come with a bunch of photos, like 我要这样子. We get to know the auntie. So most of them is like, 我退休了, or my kids move out already. I want to downgrade into a smaller condo, etc., etc. I just want to relax, like in a hotel feel. But then, when they say they want cozy, but they want the place to be very bright. You get what I mean? It's very contradicting to us. So what I always tell my clients is like, okay, so lighting itself, it's not just like as Shawn said, right? It doesn't solve all problems, right? So it's just something like an amplifier, right? So in order for the silver gen they want to achieve, right? It's also on the tiles, okay, the laminates, the wardrobes, etc., etc. So yeah, that's my take on silver gen. For upgraders, they kind of usually from HDB to condo or from condo to lender, right? So it's usually a full makeover. As you say that most of the upgraders, in fact, 80% of my owners never think that lighting, right, it's a before thought.
It's a list of their concerns.
Yes,
It's a list
correct,
of their
correct.
concerns most of the time.
Yeah, because what they usually learn about lighting is what I feel, okay? They usually see from like internet.
All the visuals are.
Correct, all the visuals. They really don't care about
But
lights.
we all here can agree that in order for the image to happen nicely,
Correct.
just like a studio photography, without lighting, right, you cannot get the mood and feel.
Correct. That's the thing.
Yeah. But they don't know because this is a technical, scientific thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I got to say, now from in the internet or Facebook or whatever, especially Pinterest, I tell you, wow, Pinterest. All is 3D one like 3D drawing but it looks so realistic It's all renders Then they show us this kind of like really sometimes to us it's like
Impossible to achieve.
not say impossible lah. You need sometimes you need like that so sometimes we also quite nan You also got need this kind of thing
Of course.
But I think Shawn will agree with me on this, right? On lighting, right, even though the project may be simply built, but
Correct.
lighting can immediately change from a normal to a luxury.
Correct.
Agree or not?
Correct.
Yes,
Let's
definitely.
elaborate more on this.
In terms of lighting, it's a very visual thing. So when it's very visual, right, we need to have spaces for references. So that is why I think you were saying that the owners actually bring them photos to show them actually what I like. In V Lux ourselves, what we recognize is that we cannot just show them lights. Because showing them lights will not give them an idea how it would happen in
How you perform
their
lah.
space. Yeah, how it performs. So we actually deliberately create spaces. And in these spaces, we turn on different lights to firstly understand what the client wants.
So what you mean is you have a mock-up in your showroom.
Right.
To-
Actually, multiple mock-ups in that sense. Like what I mentioned earlier, you cannot just tell them, you will feel this way. And then after that, they trust you. And then you install the lights. And then, hey, this is not what I want. That will be the biggest nightmare for all designers, as well as suppliers. So what we want to avoid is to firstly eliminate all doubts in that sense. When we have actual spaces to show, this is your bedroom. So in this bedroom, you can actually have like accent lighting, which is like more layman, we call it the spotlight. All the diffuse lighting is general. Which one you prefer? So with that, we actually create a profile for them first. What is their preference? So the younger generation, hey, I like something very warm, very cozy, very nice. I want the ambient to feel. Whereas for maybe the parents, hey, I don't want, I just want it to be functional, I want it to be bright. So with that, we are able to actually propose suitable lighting for individuals. Probably they might be living in the same space, under the same home, or different houses. And then from there, we will try to understand all the preference and needs and propose accordingly. So it's not just look at this light very nice, then you buy this is good for you. Instead of me telling you, it's better that you experience yourself and tell me what you want. So that is how our approach is when we are actually proposing lighting. So.
It's interesting that you mentioned that it's important to express it through the mock-ups and all that. But if I were to offer something that can quickly 给人家一个画面 I always use this story about how lights can create mood immediately and then suddenly 高档次. So I always say this, say food court, right? Food court, you go in there, you talk loudly, you eat fast, you go.
Yes.
Usually the lights are bright.
Yes.
Right, so fine dining, right, usually it's so.
Correct.
Correct. And you end up paying more, staying longer, eating
Right.
smaller portion
Yes.
of food.
Yes.
Right. So the
Correct.
irony is that's luxury.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
And so the darker it is, your voice, your tone will also drop. And in very sophisticated interior design, we actually use lighting to control people's volume of speech.
Right.
Yeah, so that
It's true,
also
it's true,
happens
it's true.
as well. So sometimes I feel that lighting, right, is really an understated warrior in an interior design scheme.
Absolutely.
In many instances where there are, like, let's say you all introduce 很有趣的 textures in the project, it's not because of just the material, but with the right lighting, suddenly everything changes.
Exactly.
So for example, 你有没有用过那种 what we call the mushroom granites right, a lot very high texture 的，用灯来去实现它。
It's not only that part 啦，不一定是说要你讲的那种东西。Even just simple lime wash, there's a texture lime wash also.
Yeah.
So with the light and without the lights actually make a lot of difference.
Yeah.
With the lights can see the texture very obvious.
Yeah.
But without the lights, like 远远看就好像平平 just a bit pattern. Yeah.
你们两个都 in the industry for so long. Would you say today like last time 省钱省电的那种 approach, right? Plus now you can use lights to aesthetically enhance a space, right? And the lifespan of the bulb can last so long, energy consumption is so low. You all feel that suddenly you're so liberated, can try all sorts of things.
Basically, now we try to integrate a lot of light, different light texture inside one living space because of the integration of smart lightings.
Yeah.
Basically, eliminate dimmers really because everything is controlled by phone. there's a lot of things to play with. So, like example, there's this rock wall feature, very, very rough texture. So, how we want to make it the focal point of the house? So, enhance it. So, we put a very nice spotlights or pin lights, so to actually grace on the rock wall itself. So, it actually give them the Now there are a lot of different lights that last time we don't see. You know, last time it's just 一个 lighting point track light. 全部就亮到完了。One track light, you want the kitchen from here can 亮 until the kitchen, from here can 亮 until the living room. 一条 track light settle everything. But now, no, track light is slowly eliminated already, I would say. Unless magnetic tracks lah. Basically, that's my take on that.
So we're going to end this segment off with Shawn having the last word. I know there are at least 3 types of lighting. Just now, Shawn mentioned you got accent lighting, there's task lighting, and then there's ambient lighting. So these are 3 types. With smart lighting, would you say that there's more than these 3 types now?
I think with smart lighting, what you are able to do is that in one space, you are able to generate different kind of layering, where you can actually now intertwine different kind of functions for different purposes. I think that is more important. Say, for example, when you're talking about ambient lighting, I like it to be cozy in that sense. But at the same time, I want it to be functional maybe at my desk. So just one touch of a button, you can just increase or you just light up a functional task light onto the desk. And you can actually work with the ambient in that sense. And then, of course, when you're talking about the entire space, we are able to also change the color temperature for different function again already. So now from a warm color, we can actually tune to a more neutral color, where it gives you a little bit more alertness in the entire space. So yes, with smart solution, it actually enables the space to be more flexible to achieve what end user wants ultimately.
So I like that. You got accent, ambient, task, and flexible.
Yes.
So that's the 4th one.
Correct.
Cool. So this round we'll try to understand efficiency, layering, smart solutions. And I'm going to start specifically on a designer's perspective. Like, what do you think is the most cost-saving strategy that a homeowner can take with a designer, right, when it comes to like cost efficiency and optimization for the home lah? I know you're anti-saso lah, maybe, but we talk about upgrader, the more generic one.
So one thing I want to emphasize is that it's not, say, one flat false ceiling with like 20 downlights. To be honest, less is more. You see, we don't need like 20 or every 1 meter we put one downlight, slap one downlight. It will make the home very, very boxy. The whole false ceiling, right? We can just cut out all the downlights, okay? And then we just put those linear diffuse light, okay? High lumens. Then for the mood and accent, we can use those up lightings. All of the lightings, like LED lightings, they are very, very energy efficient. In the past, it's all about, you know, 灯泡, the 60 watt, 180 watt, etc. But now, with LED technology, right, it's not the case really. What they can achieve is actually lesser watt but higher lumens. Yeah, so this is what my take on, you know, cost efficiency. So we changed basically all LEDs.
So your cost efficiency that you're mentioning here is post-renovation. That means usage.
Yes, correct.
But, and then just now you also touched on reducing the number of lights on the ceiling. I suppose what you're trying to say is that when you install light, it comes with wiring. Right? You need to run wire. And renovation, you charge per point.
Correct.
So per point, per light, you got light fixture cost, you got a per point light points. That's how you lower.
Correct.
But there must be some kind of a logic. Ultimately, the lighting is a like combination of this light, this light, this light, this light. Then it fulfills the certain brightness.
Correct.
Do y'all use some kind of a scientific measurement tool to determine usage? Say we cost cut, you know, reduce the number, then end up we are not efficient already. We cannot be productive. Let's say this room is meant to be a children's bedroom. Besides sleeping, the children still do homework, so they need brightness. So in that case, right, how would you like determine in a scientific way that there is some kind of minimum standard, minimum volume of light?
For me personally, that's where all the layering of lights coming. In one room, okay, of course, there are lights for function, task lighting. Then after that would be ambience, and then the last layer would be all the mood lightings. Let's say children's bedroom, right? So children, they usually run around in the room, play, etc., right? So we would need task lighting. Okay, that means it's very, very bright, but we don't limit it to just one, you slap one ceiling light there, then okay already. That's not the way.
So based on what Nat said, right, I think he was trying to cut down on the number of lighting points. And of course, lighting points equals to installing lights, and then installing lights also got like labor charge, and then light fixture, lighting points. So imagine a room like children's bedroom, right? Ultimately, it needs to serve certain functions besides sleeping, right? Let's say the homeowner challenge you and say that, oh, you cut, good lah, help me cut, save money. Then, but ultimately, my children still need to study, still need to do some reading, play, whatever. Go, man, enough, man. If you cannot just be cost efficiency, ma.
Okay, usually when it comes to the room that they need to study, right, usually I would suggest that to have a LED lights like above the study desk. So usually we will implement into their top hung cabinet, which is we usually build in the whole unit, right? So we will put the LED lights above the study desk. So even like they off all the lights, then they can still use the table functional. Of course, we won't cut until, you know, they cannot play, they need to 摸黑 to 玩那个玩具. Yeah. So when it comes to this stage, right, we really will looking into the room size lah, and then also looking into the wattage of the light itself. So we will suggest the correct wattage of the lights, then put into the room. Okay, usually we put 6 lights. Then we want to cut down the cost, right? Maybe I cut to 4 lights, so I can save the electrical wiring cost. But then I just need to get a slightly higher wattage of the downlight, then can solve the problem already.
Now I'm going to ask the lighting guy, right? So if we go one step further lah, so what Ginnie say and what Nat says, right? We can trim on the wirings, we can trim on the lighting fixtures. Then maybe even to a certain extent, hybrid they get downlights from you guys. Here and there, spotlights, and then even the task lighting, which is integrated into carpentry, the LED strip and all that. But the homeowner feel that maybe my daughter, she at night got anxiety issue. I need to have baby light here and there. Right. Go IKEA buy. Left, right, center, everywhere buy lah. I mean, obviously, they go IKEA, they'll save money lah, right? But is it better? What would you say, right? You can offer a better solution. That means in the long run, right, going to a one-stop shop like you guys, right, is a better solution.
At the very beginning of the show, I was actually emphasizing that in lighting, there's no right or wrong in that sense. So when the requirement like this from owners come, I think the most important thing I need to focus, now we are talking about children room, is of course the functionality again on the room whereby they're not studying. It has to be brightly lit, but at the same time, it's not glaring to their eyes because that's important. So light itself has to be well controlled for general usage. But at the same time, if they're studying, I think this top hung cabinet with LED strip lighting, I didn't know when designers start to implement this, no, but it's one of the best solutions, in my opinion, for lighting, because apart from just study tables, right, all the kitchen, you all like to put backwash, right? And then you put this task lighting. It's fantastic. Because a lot of time when you're cooking, the light is right on top of your head. Most of the time it casts shadow. Or it doesn't reach the point where the cabinetry or where the task is. So having that is actually very crucial, in my opinion, for kitchen lighting in that sense. So when it comes back to having children and then having a solution where they want to buy from outside, apart from just the fundamentals of the downlights and the LED strip lights from us, I wouldn't say it's no good. It's their choice. But we also need to understand the owner's point of view is that when I buy this, what is the purpose? Does it fit into my design? Will the IKEA product fit into the design of the designer space? If not, then probably they need to reconsider that. Because end of the day, these are free moving stuff. So with free moving stuff means that I can try first. And then if I don't like, then I buy a new one. But end of the day, 就变成 you're not saving money. So it comes back to a point where we will give the advice, let them ponder, and then from there, they will decide whether, okay, should I just go with this, or with you, where you give me this solution, maybe the lights are more environmental friendly, the paint they use are better in that sense. So these are the things we will consider, and then let them decide. Because end of the day, they are the one that's living the space, they are the one that's using the space itself with the lighting that we are proposing. We can only, I would say, suggest or propose, and then from there, based on their own values, they will decide.
What about from a technology point of view? Like we were talking about table lamps, desk lamp, or even floor standing lamp, right?
Right.
Traditionally, these style of lamps, right, they have a plug point.
Yes.
So you plug on the wall, and then there's a push down button.
Right.
But you know, us typical Asian, we go into a space, the light turns on.
Yes.
They expect that with that one button, I on whatever I need to on. Wouldn't a company like you guys be able to offer a solution that kind of connects all these together?
So end of the day, now it comes into smart technology. So in general, for what we have to offer is that even if your products are non-smart, we can enable it to be smart.
Wow, how?
So basically how we do it is to add additional controllers to limit the power, turning on and off, or to dim them, it is dimmable. So in general, for our lighting solution, right, even not our own lights, we can still be able to enable smart lighting from other spaces.
So you have a technology that can on existing fixtures as well.
Yes. In general, Astley, if your home, it's not smart now, right? I can make it smart.
Okay. And it will address this problem. I come in,
Yes.
I press one button,
Right.
whatever I want to turn on,
Yes.
I don't have to physically go there and press.
Yes, don't need.
Same as turning on.
So it's like a scene triggering button already.
Okay, I see you also brought some toys here. You want to maybe show us a little bit about...
Yeah, what I wanted to show is that apart from just lighting, a lot of people will see downlight as, okay, it's just a downlight. But actually there's a lot of thought being put into the downlight itself. So this is basically, allow me to share this.
Yeah.
So basically, this is our product, which is called Evo. So from the looks of it, on a layman term, it's just a general downlight. But there's a lot of thought put behind this. Number one, when you're actually looking in a recessed downlight, most of the time you see there's a lot of clips. So when you actually have clips onto the recess board, right, gypsum board, after a while when you're doing maintenance, you need to put it down, right? So when you pull it down, what is the common problems you all will face? Crack, yes. So this is something which probably end user and designer might not even think of it at this point of time. But we have to think a bit further because we actually do extended service warranty to take care of the clients. So apart from just putting it lights like this, we do a front loading downlight. What is front loading? Basically, to actually maintain this downlight itself actually has a driver that's connected to it. What we do front loading is that we enable the product to be able to service from the front. So I can take out the module from here. So I take down this, the driver will come down together. So the ceiling is protected. So no longer you need to touch the false ceiling in that sense. Of course, the adjustability is an additional point. Okay. So of course, again, this is what we have been selling for the past 3 to 4 years. So for us, we also innovate and improve. This is basically for you guys it's a 10 watt downlight, which is at about 700 lumens. Okay. So today, or I would say this year, when we actually launch a new product, we call this the Axis. So this is what we would say it's an older product. 要进步对吗? This is the new product. Check out the size. So this is 10 watt, this is also 10 watt. This is about 700 lumens, this is about 780 lumens, about 10% more. So it's smaller but more powerful, packs a bigger punch. But the most important thing, you see that the thing that I was struggling earlier, right? I plug out from here, front loading. Now, so being able to pull out this product so you can maintain as well, which is like the front loading, but this time toolless, and also the adjustability which we do. So apart from that, we also converse with designer what they want. Look into it in detail, right? The trim itself is tapered, which means that aesthetically, it looks much nicer on the ceiling. It flows very nicely in the false ceiling. And to plug it back is just very simple doing this. So this is something that we improve over the years. We are always listening to what end user wants, as well as what the designer wants. So I would say designer, 你们 would like the light to have light, but I don't want to see the light. That is basically how they want to have in terms of aesthetics. So we reduce the size of the fixtures, which is now much smaller compared to the predecessor. So we also develop a semi-recessed downlight. So this is basically semi-recessed, not completely flush, because you might want to create certain elements of the space. We actually launched another product. This is called Aro, which is another name of Aura in that sense. So this one, see no use. You have to come to my showroom because when it's lighted up, you basically don't see any light source on the ceiling. It just creates a very dramatic effect onto the horizontal space. So after thought of downlights, it's not just, hey, look nice. It has to perform functionality. At the same time, it has to be able to fulfill the aesthetic portion as well. So every product that we launch is well thought and carefully thought in that sense. Yeah.
Especially like some of these new lights that are out in the market. First thing first is I think when we look at traditional lighting, there is glare. And not to mention, if we really peppered all downlights in a room, especially in the bedroom, no matter how you avoid, the light is going to hit your eye.
For sure.
So I like what Nat did just now. He said basically removing the false ceiling light, right, and repurposing it here and there.
Yes.
So that you avoid this element of glare. And I can tell you that you will really change your usage in the room if you don't have glare. The second thing is, besides just the maintenance and all that, I believe today's LED technology allows you to put different type of lens on top of it. So that means that while what you mentioned with the small one and it packing a punch, right, is that the spread and its lumens is strong, but your spread is not compromised.
Correct.
Which means less light, less glare, more performance.
Yes. In that sense, with lens technology now with LED, right, it actually cleans up the beam pretty much to be able to have a very soft throw instead of being very harsh. So with that, we have different angles which we want to use it for different purposes. So for example, if you're in the kitchen, you want to be a bit wider, so maybe at 50 degrees. But in the living space, maybe I want it to be at 36. Want to have a bit of light and shadow to create that very atas feel in that sense. But at the same time, I want to layer a bit more. So for example, maybe a coffee table. I just want a 15 degree to be placed up there. So it gives you a very nice dramatic effect in the entire space where you can have well-lit ambience. At the same time, you are able to accentuate certain places without increasing or putting more lights just to focus on it.
I asked the auntie Saso here. Ama uncle see already, the light, left, right, center cannot see the light because no glare. Do you think they will feel very insecure and say that, eh, kau keng meh?
Basically, those the uncle aunties, okay, because they are so used to those like what we call it those traditional downlights, the LEDs. Then after they slept with one diffuser, yeah, correct. But then with all the different, like example, this one. So basically, right, 做 side by side comparison, just to 安抚他们的心
You bring them to the lighting shop lah.
Correct.
Basically, you show them. So the auntie uncles false ceiling, you are confident that you are able to convince them that less is more.
Yes.
Reducing, but you still get more in the long run.
Correct.
In terms of lighting, it's all about perception. So what we do, which is why I always keep emphasizing that lighting is an experience, which is why we have spaces for them to see it. When you're doing lighting, you need to layer them. So when you're doing downlights, right, most of the time you should be focusing on the horizontal plane of the space, your table, your flooring, your coffee table, or your sculpture, maybe a piano. But this itself does not make the whole place look bright because the vertical space is not lighted.
X, Y.
Yes, because our human eyes, we tend to look forward. So when your walls are not lighted up, you feel that it's very dark. So how do you actually do that? Means that you need to layer firstly the horizontal and then the vertical portion. Usually how we do it is through cove lighting. But there are some owners that doesn't like cove lighting because they get dusty. So there are solutions like wall washing. So this wall washing, maybe you probably could see it in my showroom yourself in future. As well as maybe even a uplighter, a table lamp, or maybe wall scones to do it. Then you will actually see, okay, I have vertical illumination as well as horizontal. Then you will feel comfortable. Then when we show this to the older folks in that space, 这样可以. This is why an experience area is very important.
Yeah, I think to sum it up at the end of the day, right, is that we do have a bias. 每个人都有点小偏见的. Where we come from, what we've been exposed to.
Yes.
Like auntie, ama, they're not wrong one.
Correct.
Then now you tell me like that can. Right, so a showroom really can make a lot of difference.
Yes,
Okay.
a lot of difference.
Good ending to this segment.
Thank you.
Okay, this part is called Lighting Confessions, and hopefully every one of you can give honest answers, honest, gut-wrenching answers. We'll start with Ginnie here, being the lady in the house. So I think homeowners, they have this concept that LED 可能就是 long lifespan 省电, and that's a common conception. Is there a misconception here? Like I would think there's more to it than just LED lighting. And like what we just all say is like, instead of false lighting, you all do layering.
Okay, so a lot of people think that like all the LED is the same. So when I say LED, they were thoughts that, are you asking me to buy a downlight or something like that? So it's a new technology, right? So it's like more energy efficient. It's actually implement into different type of lighting as well. For example, that's sometimes we will put the LED strip on the false ceiling design to make the room looks cozy. Also, we will put the LED lights on the ceiling as a downlight. We will use some of the pendant light, like a hanging light or the wall light. So all these we will be using LED light bulbs to make the space looks better.
So LED is just a technology.
Yep.
The different fixtures are still the same. During my time when we do cove ceiling, then we do pocket light, we have to do T5. Don't know whether you all know. T5, right? Then But the problem with that, right, is that there are breakages. And then the other problem is that because of the fluorescent tube or the tube itself, right, being a straight form, our ceiling design is limited. Right. Meaning I cannot anyhow do curve already. I do curve, then you can see zigzag like that. So today this has changed already. Maybe you can run us through, maybe you got a project that actually because of this LED technology and then the curves, right, you're able to kind of create the effect that you want.
I have been working with a project that have a lot of limitation because of the aircon trunking, all this, right? So I got to box up this aircon trunking. But then the bad thing is the aircon trunking is actually lower than the door height. So I have to design the wall to be a fully curved feature wall. So that's I need to implement this LED strip into that wall. There's no other lights can replace.
Yeah, so everything suddenly 神不知鬼不觉 nobody knows about it.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct. So can cover everything already. Yeah.
Would you then say that the LED strip and all that, right, also at the same time creates this sense of weightlessness? Because when you have light, right, things look like it's floating.
Yeah, it looks nice. There's a light shine onto the wall, then it can become a main lights of that space also.
So it also brings in some lighting to the space,
Yeah.
not just aesthetic.
Yeah, correct.
And the best thing is that it doesn't consume a lot of electricity.
Yes.
And
yeah.
so now people
省钱
are more willing to aesthetically have lights
Yeah.
introduced here and there.
Yeah, correct. 省钱 is 最重要啦。right.
Last time is halogen.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very good.
Not only it's nice, you
Yeah.
show on the wall, very nice, but then hot like hell.
Yeah,
Solid,
very hot.
very hot.
Like 500 hours lifespan. And then LED lifespan is
35 to 50,000 hours, provided it's the right product.
1,000 times X. You know, that's a scary reality.
A lot of clients, homeowner, they will have a concern that if I put this light on the feature wall, all this, if my children touch, will get burned or not. They kind of concern. So usually LED lights is not hot. Downlight lights kind of the lights we can also put on the feature wall as a design, but smaller type lah. So the young children, they can also like touch lah. They will touch everything lah. Yeah. So they can touch also. It won't like get burned or what. Yeah. So it's very good lah.
本年卖了就剪。
他们要学一下。
对啦，就这样 no pain no gain.
Yeah.
No, but then okay lah, test you.
Test.
So, and then we have a lighting guy. So if we're all wrong, then we'll be educated lah.
Don't say that, don't say
So
that.
the LED strip is not going to be hot. Question 1, driver will be hot.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
Yep.
correct.
Yes and no.
Why?
Okay. End of the day, basically for drivers for LED strip, right? When it's very hot, it means that you are actually utilizing the driver to a certain capacity. So you are actually using a bigger capacity to drive it. The driver itself will not.
If you're
Yes,
stressing
if you are stressing
you'll
the
be
driver,
hot.
it'll be hot.
So
Yeah.
it should be overpowered and not underpowered.
Yes, it has to be overpowered. In fact,
Oh.
if it's underpowered, what is the phenomenon you will see is that sometimes when you
Burn
install
out.
after a while, no, the strip will off on,
Oh, flicker
on.
or diminishing.
off on.
Yep.
Off on, you have this blinking kind of thing, not blinking very fastly, but they will turn off and turn on. So that is basically overdriving.
Overcompensating.
Yeah, overdriving. So you need to change the driver.
Oh, this is very good knowledge. Second question. LED don't spoil, is the driver spoil? Why did you answer?
It's always the driver that gives out first.
So that means I change driver can already, LED can stay put.
Yes.
Correct or wrong?
Correct.
So same thing because it's overcompensation.
Sad to say lah, Singapore we are first world country already, right? But the power that we receive from homes, it fluctuates.
Oh.
So the voltage is 220 to 240, but sometimes it drops below. So when you drop below, it depends on the driver quality again. Is it in Mandarin it's quite 宽电压? 宽电压 means that I'm able to take very wide voltage range. But if you're getting those like it's only 220 to 240, 20 volt difference only. Anything below or above, right? It will actually damage the driver.
I see.
The damage might be not catastrophic failure, means that it dies straight away, but the lifespan will be reduced. So it might be a catastrophic failure. So in that sense, we need to first identify the driver specification, which I think it is also the supplier's job, because we know what is good and what is no good, and then we have to pass this knowledge to the designers. So the designers will be empowered to be able to understand or explain to the end user as well.
Okay. Third final question to the designers, then you correct them if you're wrong. Typically, right, this so-called LED strip and the driver thing, they pass it to the electrician. I mean, the downlights you buy with the lighting shop, right? But then the LED and the LED drivers for the LED strip usually is passed to the electrician to do. Correct or not?
No.
For you? No.
No.
You all source from the lighting shop.
Yes,
about you?
usually.
Same.
Yep.
Same. Why do you do this?
For each driver, the voltage of driver, there's a certain number of meters that they can actually power safely. Of course, to protect the shelf lives, etc. So the rule of thumb always change one. It's like example, this thing is 5 meter long, they need to use until the 120 volt, that kind of things. And just leave it to them to recommend because
They're the expert lah.
yeah, of course they are the experts. Another thing is This, because it's ever-changing one. Light shop people, they always got new updates on the different LEDs and etc. But when they updated, then we won't know, ma. Even we bring owners down, ma. Actually, it's a new. 现在变了. Now it's like 5 meter, can use 60 watt already. I don't know. Usually I will just leave it to them, then one shot.
I usually will advise clients to purchase from the lighting shop. Partly is because they will recommend the correct driver. If not, then you go and purchase by yourself, you could get the wrong one. So you should get from the lighting shop. Then they recommend the correct wattage of the driver. That's the first thing. Second thing is the lighting shop will need to do the welding for each of the LED strips. So they actually can weld it properly. Rather than if you ask electrician do, right, maybe they can only do the very basic one. But some of the lights, there is like RGB light, there is a 6 wire. So they need to have the tools to do it. You cannot like just ask 叫电工帮忙. It will cause it will cause issue to the lights. The whole strip could be cannot use anymore. So that's the best way to buy from the lighting shop.
To further that question, right, would there be any benefit in terms of, let's say, color temperature if we all source from that one place? What everyone say is 2,700K, but 2,700K in different brands, it performs differently.
Correct. Apart from LED strip, even downlights also, there's this term more technical, it's called STCM, which is called Standard Deviation Color Matrix. So what does that mean? I always use the best example using women's favorite jewel or stone, like diamond. VVS, VVS1, S, right? So the color, there's difference one. So when you're actually buying an LED strip, right, depending on the SDCM value, the smaller number, the better. Usually now we use less than 2. Means that in a wafer, there's 3000K. So it's actually coated with phosphor. So when this 3000K coated with phosphor, the thickness is different. So the color temperature is a bit different. So sometimes you will see that strips, right, it'll be a bit greenish, or a bit reddish, or a bit bluish even. So when you actually buy from a supplier, it's important for them to have a consistency in this. Because if not, I think the designers would actually face problems like, for example, a segment of the LED fail. So for example, like Cove Light, I have 5 meters. Then one segment fail. My question will be always to ask, if I cut away this one and replace with a new one, will it be the same? More often than not, it's not going to be the same. They have to rip the whole thing, put a new one. That's actually additional cost. Because for us, in terms of the LED strips, even for the downlights, we are very careful in terms of the color temperature. And because of the 3 years on-site warranty, which V Lux offers, and beyond the extended service warranty, we have to make sure this is consistent. Because in that 3 years, if anything fails, it's under my cost. So I cannot use products that are of lower quality. It has to be at a certain level. Because if not, every time 5 meter, I change. 糟了.
Yeah, I mean, V Lux is what, 26 years old already.
Yes, we are 26 years in the
sustain so long in the industry. Last question, I'm going to give it to Nat. And then this one is whether you can a project like this whereby the client come to you and then just now you mentioned that they show you the visuals, they say, hey, this is a trend, I want this kind of light. You also think it's fine, but then after that, you apply already, you find that it doesn't work. Are there such kind of projects where they want this kind of light and then end up it don't work?
So just imagine this 4-room, 20 plus years old HDB. We completed it's like 180,000. Just so imagine the scale of it. So it's like fully hacked. We bolt out the whole place and we redo it. Okay.
Huge.
Then into a very luxurious. It was all very good from the start. The carpentry it's up. The lights they bought from my recommended one, okay, but for the LEDs they go and buy themselves. So when it's time to install the LED, we specifically told them, okay, so this one for the cove lighting, what we want to achieve is warm white, cool light. The older they come, they buy RGB ma. I'm not saying I'm very very stubborn, but sometimes when cannot I will tell owner cannot one. But this one I fight The wife also jiap me fight Certain areas we managed to change the wiring. It's basically the living area. The rooms all cannot change. 包得满满的，要拆这个拆那个。The husband die don't want this RGB. Then he was saying that okay, never mind. I can change the color to whatever you all tell me ma. The renovation is so beautiful But the moment we on the LED I tell you the whole living room you put 4 wheels below you can go to the UK already Wow, you know how bad it is or not? The husband he likes it Me and the wife at that like wow, actually 不错You know why? My 10% haven't collect my last payment. I need to uncut a bit. Okay. You know, when they move in already, they say that it's okay. If we don't like, we can change it to the warm white, etc. Okay. 2 months later, it's like, hey, it's time to photo shoot already. Everything set up already on the light, purple color.
No, but you can change what? You change your color that you want.
Actually, honestly, I quite turned off. We took the photo shoot without the LEDs in the living room.
I got this question. I think this one quite valid. RGB light, right? No matter how they push out, right? To get the same warm color as per our normal LED warm white, right? It's just not powerful enough.
Yes, number one, the strip itself has some space constraint. You're putting in R, G, B, red, green, blue, right?
Per like 1 inch. or
One
something.
diode, and then after that, you still want to have warm white and daylight in, because RGB actually comes different. They have 3 wires for RGB, solely for RGB. There's RGBW, which is basically using 5 wires, and then there's RGBWW, which is the warm and the daylight. But with that in mind, when you actually placed it in the array of forms, right, it just don't cut it in terms of a pure single color strip, because of the number of diodes in there and the lumen output it can produce.
So you see, ITK. Really, there is a reason why a lighting shop is around for 26 years. There's a reason why designers are designers. I mean, we're not just about the aesthetics. Really, there are certain things that we have prior knowledge and we know that these will function a certain way. In the long run, if you're not going to get the maximum value out of your home, in a sense, you will live to regret it. Yeah. Okay, we've come to this segment where we stir a little bit and then basically it's to ask kind of tough questions. Our 小天使 prepare what I hope is really tough question. The last few rounds too easy. Ask Shawn. I think this one quite interesting. Okay. What's one type of homeowner customer you politely dread meeting?
I politely dread meeting clients that know half truths. In a lifetime, right, you probably move 2.5 times to 3 times. That's the statistic. Probably through moving houses, he actually have some experience in lighting. And then he will actually dictate, oh, this is what is best. And then when we try to explain to them, that's where the challenge comes, because usually they know half. So they will take their half to challenge you. We want to actually explain to them. But usually their minds are quite sharp. End of the day, we will always say, you're the paymaster, you decide. We have the experience, we already gave you the advice. And then if you are not taking it, it's all good.
But I think the underlying thing is that it's not just the exposure that they have due to prior renovation, but also because they bring certain baggage with them. So 他的生活方式 is like that, all this while, right? It shaped the way that he thinks. I remember having a client that refused to change the layout. We say that now, after 20 years, you renovate, you can change the door here. The moment we change, right, the natural wind don't always blow out your gas stove. It's going to enhance your life.
Correct.
You should take the opportunity to do it.
Yes.
But they resist. This is how I've been living for the last 20 years. Why would you know any better?
Right.
Do you
So
think
it's like a comfort zone kind of the experience in that sense. So of course for us, we will try to advise, and then of course at the same time listening. Of course, if we know that the lighting design or the whole space is not really aligned to probably the designer's intent or whatnot, we would basically try to find a certain compromise. You can reap the benefits and the values of the proposed lighting, and then at the same time being able to have what you want.
Cool.
Stir.
I think this one go to you. Any trend you secretly hate, but the clients keep coming to ask you for?
No leh, I'm quite open.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe I take this question I give to Nathaniel.
Industrial.
工业.
To me, I don't know how they take this kind of like under block thing, then they put it inside the house. Once again, there's no right or wrong. One design cannot appeal to everyone, but sadly, I'm just one of them that doesn't like industrial. Okay, but there's a period of time where the track light era.
Yeah, track light, then conduit, then come down, then go on
This
plug.
one is the most, the 路线 I also don't know how to go and...
Think how to make it nice.
So ironic, like it's supposed to be this very rustic looking thing.
Correct.
But then you end up have to think about the exposure and the running of a conduit,
correct.
just so that it conforms to this language that you don't like.
Correct. Okay, industrial design, it's not difficult. It's only a few color palettes only, grey, white, black color. It's so simple, but at the same time so difficult,
Yeah. I think like for example, industrial look, for those very successful cases, it's because it's a heritage building.
Correct.
It's like a New York
Correct,
loft.
yes.
It's got a real history. It's all for its historical reason. But when we try to fabricate it, right, it's inorganic, it's not authentic, and then you can tell that it's very forced.
But I think the industrial is there's a good things it's 很容易交货. You just anyhow do that.
搓
then
我求
okay lor. Then come on say, why this one is like that? This one
Industrial.
It's like that.
It's like 装修嘛，装了才来修。
Yeah, it's like that.
But in honesty, there is character, especially if like done right.
Correct.
They bring out the historical element of the space, right? And then you juxtapose with modern and old, right? With the right lighting, right? All the texture all come out. I think it's very powerful.
I just want to say that I really do see a lot of really, really successful industrial design. If it's really nice, it's really nice. But if you ask me to do it on my home, no.
Okay, good. Okay, now we see, Ginnie, this one no matter what you have to do. If you had an unlimited budget and no restriction, right, what's the boldest lighting move you would do in a home? And don't say RGB.
Definitely, I will put everywhere, literally everywhere. Each of the display niche with light. Even my skirting also need to have lights. My false ceiling, the cove light also definitely need to have a light lah. Then
Your curtain pelmet also got light.
yeah, curtain pelmet also got light everywhere. My door also I want to put lights. You know there's a glass door in front. Yeah, so I want to put lights everywhere.
Why? You outline everything like that.
Yeah, and dark cannot find the toilet, and I can see the toilet right.
Are you close to that? Have you achieved something close to that?
Door and the skirting haven't done, but then the curtain pelmet, the cove light, then each of the niche, TV wall, console, all this, yeah, with light.
It seems that you're quite willing to experiment with lighting. You obviously feel that lighting is very important. If let's say there's a reno budget, right, and the customer kind of tell you, I have 150,000, lighting will take what kind of percentage?
You mean from the light purchase also, including the light fittings?
Yes.
Then the light fitting easily will need to spend at least 10K, I think.
Wow, very cost effective. You still want to park 140 in your side.
No, electrical work haven't bound.
Oh, haven't bound.
Electrical work also need to spend at least 8 to 10K already. If you rewire, it's like 15 to 20K he done before. If let's say you want to implement this much of the light, especially LED, then it can be very cost.
Okay. I want to zero in on this a little bit more because you seem to want the expenditure on all these kind of cove and strips and all that, but no investment on expensive pendant or architectural lighting. For example, arco lamps or maybe even a floors hanging pendant lamp. Easily how much I want?
General pendant can cost from 1K to 10K. I think the 10K budget, right, is quite reasonable because in general, lighting budget should be about 5 to 10%, in my opinion. And this 5 to 10%, a lot of people fail to understand, it actually impacts 100% of the space. You'll be more than surprised a lot of times when we actually work with owners, right? Say, for example, 150,000 house, and then we say 5%, okay, about 7,500 in that sense. Wow, so expensive. They have this conception because they don't understand how important lighting is in that sense. So that's where we have to actually educate them. So in terms of European lights, that is additional already from this 5 to 10% because end of the day, it depends on firstly the owner's needs. Do they want to portray a certain status in the space, or they actually really like the design of the pendant, and that's where they will actually decide whether do they want to spend on a European fixture itself.
The design also does matter also because the design will affect the price. A lot of times they ask like, oh, why this one so expensive? Of course, because of the design. Just like we go see cinder stone. Some kind of cinder stone is very expensive. One feet $300.
I think at the end of the day, don't neglect this very important appliance at home. A lot of people may think that lighting is in a category of its own, but actually it is still a 电器. And we tend to put more attention on the choice of TV, on the fridge, even the aircon.
Right.
But the single most used appliance at home is none of these things, but your lighting. The true value of when you find a designer, right, is that they will take that into consideration first and foremost. After they plan the furniture layout plan, the next thing they will do is lighting plan already. Correct. And that's like the natural progression one. Because no lighting, no home. Just a last word, whether you guys have any advice to homeowners embarking on the journey.
Lighting design planning will have to come as soon as the 3D design is ready, even before we start the renovation. This is a must because we really need to think like what type of the light set should be come in and budget. Because when we comes to doing the renovation, we propose the design, all this, we have to consider about client budget also. So we really need to find something suitable to the clients.
She said for me already. Okay. She snatched my weapon already.
Shawn?
I think advice to end user is that when you're actually planning your home, do put lighting as not an afterthought, something that you probably want to think about it, research about it, talk to people about it, maybe your friends or maybe even the designer, because designers are the ones that actually are exposed to the industries. So it's good to seek advice from them. And for designers, the advice for myself would be to actually be more open to see what are the new technologies available, and then depending on the design intent you have, talk to your vendors to help you realize the design that you want.
Nice. And with that, we've come to the wrap of today's very interesting, illuminating subject on lighting for this episode of the SIXiDER Show. Right. Remember to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends and family if they are going through renovation. Thank you guys for joining us in this round of the show.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.